through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And welcome. Glad you are with us on this November 12th, 2025. We're going to be joined by Gordon Chang here in just one moment because there is a lot of tension between China and Japan. And there's also some comments that have been made by a Chinese official about a Japanese official. A lot of tension between China and Japan. We'll get into that tonight. And where is war likely to start? The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has said, we are on a war footing. We're getting ready. Where is this war likely to start? I want to ask Mr. Chang that tonight. Of all the hot spots in the world, where does he think the next war is likely to start? Let's see what he has to say about that. And then what does he think about President Trump saying we need to keep 600,000 Chinese students coming into America to keep these institutions of higher leaning, as Rush Limbaugh used to call them, afloat? That's got a lot of people very upset. What does Mr. Chang think of that comment? And should we be rounding up more of the Chinese that are here and getting them out of the country? I'm not talking about Chinese citizens, American citizens that are Chinese, but the illegals that are from China. Why are they here? And should we be paying attention to that more than maybe even the illegals from Mexico? I want to ask him about that tonight and much more. Gordon Chang on his way up first. And then we're going to be joined by Mark Mitchell, the lead pollster at Rasmussen. President Trump, he was going viral today. Another clip from his interview with Laura Ingraham, where he said, we need more H-1B visa holders to come into the country to do the jobs that Americans can't do. We don't have enough Americans to do these jobs. And it really has people mad. I mean, angry. Major influencers, people with big followings, big Trump supporters who are livid today. Well, we're going to ask Mark Mitchell about it. What kind of polling is happening with President Trump's favorability and direction? And then why does he think that perhaps maybe we've paid too much attention to Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson's interview? Why is that maybe going to backfire? But why does he think so many young white men, are they called Zoomers, Logan? Is that what your generation's called, Zoomers? Why Zoomers? I know Boomers, but why are you guys Zoomers? Why are you guys called Zoomers? Yeah, that's your generation, Jeb. Well, somebody look it up. I don't know why you guys are called Zoomers, but you are. Huh? Gen Z? Yeah, maybe that's why we're called Zoomers. Generation, I don't know, look it up. I don't even know what generation I am. I'm born in 69. What would I be? I know my parents are the boomers. I don't know what I am. I don't keep track of all that. It's too many names. But he says the Zoomers, he's going to tell us tonight why the white male Zoomers are going for Nick Fuentes and why so many of them are frustrated. And some of their reasoning is really good, actually, why they're angry. They're angry. It's a modern, Zoomers is just a modern twist on boomers. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to find out why the Zoomers are turning to people like Nick Fuentes tonight. And he's getting emails and direct messages from some of these young white males, and they are livid tonight, and they think that Trump has failed them. Now, what is likely to happen in the midterms due to this? How many of them are likely to never vote again or just sit out the next election for sure? What does that mean for President Trump when it comes to impeachment and then being found guilty over in the Senate? And then what does this mean for setting up the ticket for 2028 and J.D. Vance? I know Mark is I'm Gen X. I'm Generation X. 1969. YX. What does that stand for? What are you? You're a millennial, right? No, you're Gen Z. But you're Gen Z. Who's a millennial? Weren't you born in you were born in what year, Logan? 2003? Who's the millennials? What year is that? Up to 30-year-olds? I don't know. It's too confusing. 81 to 96 is what? Millennials. 81 to 96. Okay. Yeah. Kind of hard to keep up with all this. And then who else are we going to have, Logan? Gordon Chang. And then Mark Mitchell. I'm going to do a quick, like a short 10-minute interview with Mark Lucky. Short 10-minute interview with Dr. Mark Lucky, because I need more of you to sign up for Bella Grace, Bella Mel, I think, to support your health and help us and support us at the same time. So are you doing your Christmas shopping yet? I hope you'll do it at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We have a lower third for that. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Do some of your Christmas shopping there, will you? Will you also maybe get a subscription of Bella Grace for somebody? I take this every day, as you know. 80 clinical trials, great results. Maybe get a subscription of the Gatatana Forum. All of this is at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. You know where it's at. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it tonight, but we sure need your support. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. And of course, as always, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. And did you know our vault, 36 years now, almost 36 years, next year, 36 years of radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks. Pretty soon we're putting on nearly 3,000 of my slides from my Revelation lesson. Almost 3,000 slides from my Revelation lesson are going into the vault. In fact, I want to send you real quick, maybe to myself. Let me send it to myself, and I want to show you guys real quick. My Hamas book has gone in there, as you know. My Hamas book is in there. You don't need to buy the Hamas book. I mean, you can actually buy it at worldviewstore.com if you'd like to. You can buy it at worldviewstore.com if you'd like to. But you don't have to buy it if you're a Vault member. You get my Hamas book. They just came out a week ago, Monday, automatically. But my next book is coming out on Siege. When do we think Siege will be out, Logan? Siege should be out by the end of the week. That's based on my documentary, Siege. That should be out by the end of the week. Again, and that goes into the Marxist, the Islamist, how they're working together to bring down the country. That you also don't need to buy. It'll be automatically a member of the vault. And then, I don't know, sometime after Thanksgiving, probably, Logan, sometime in December, we're going to be releasing this right here. This has taken me a year and a half, folks. Revelation, a commentary and study guide. This is my commentary on Revelation. It's taken me a year and a half, and now we're proofing it and double checking everything twice, and it'll be out. And yes, we'll have it as a PDF in our store when it's out, but you do not have to buy it. It will be well over 200 pages, 250 plus pages, somewhere around 250, I'm guessing. You will not have to buy it if you're a Vault member. You don't have to buy Hamas book. You don't have to buy Siege book. You don't have to buy the Coming Sabotage book. You don't have to buy the Revelation commentary. All of these things are a part of your membership when you're a Vault member. So that's a pretty good deal. Not to mention you get all of our documentaries, 22 years of our National Worldview weekends, and so much more. All there. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. But I'm very excited about the Revelation series because that's a lot of work, folks. And I had a great time teaching it and learning as I studied and bringing it to you. And I'm excited to have it come out as a commentary and a study guide. There'll be questions at the end of each chapter, and they will line up with all the free lessons, 53 lessons I taught for an hour. And they're all for free at lastdaystudy.com. Now, those we're making available for free because we want to keep ministry front and center. So you can watch all 53 hours of my teaching through the book of Revelation right now for free at lastdaystudy.com. 2 S's in a row, lastdaystudy.com. But soon we'll have the commentary, and each chapter at the end will have questions and answers, questions that you answer that you can do as a personal study guide or as a Bible study, homeschool group, Christian school, family, whatever. So very excited. But notice we're doing a lot of this stuff, folks, and popping it right into the vault for members so that you don't have to spend a bunch of money. But I do hope you'll spread the word about lastdaystudy.com, okay? And worldviewtube.com/vault. Very soon, when do you think, Logan, next few days, we'll have it set up where you can buy the vault as a gift for someone for Christmas. When do you think that'll be ready? Ask our IT guy about that, would you please? but we're setting it up so you can actually buy the vault for someone as a gift for Christmas. All right. So we'll let you know when we have that set up. All right. These are all ways that you can, not always, these are all various ways that you can support what we're doing and keep this free network going. All right. Because it's not free to us to run. Now, before we go to Gordon Chang, let's go to the Dolly cam, shall we? Let's get our nightly Dolly fix. There she is. Hello, Dolly. Dolly. Hello, girl. Are you enjoying the show tonight? You're not really all that intrigued, are you? Yeah. Huh? Like, why are you waking me up? What's the deal? You're good? You love that bed, don't you? Yep. Getting colder out too, isn't it? You're kind of curled up into a knot, aren't you? She loves to sleep like that. That's how she sleeps at night next to me every night. Curled up in a knot right up by my chest a lot of the times. Like, why do you have to sleep up so high? Can't you go down lower on the bed? She's got to sleep right up in your face, tied up in a knot. Don't you, girl? Yeah. You're a good girl. All right. Let's get started. Joining me now is Gordon Chang. Make sure that's Gordon G. Chang if you want to follow him on X. I want to have him on for many reasons, a lot of activity dealing with Taiwan and Japan and China, but also this. When I saw this the other night, I thought, oof, we've got to get Mr. Chang back on. You remember this, you saw it, but let's set it up again for those who maybe haven't. 600,000 Chinese students need to come to America, and why? Watch this.
600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
Well, I think that's a big deal.
Are they fans?
You would have the
fans of the United States?
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically, black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities.
So we're dependent on China to keep our university system going?
But I think it's good to have. I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French.
All right, let's hold right there. I don't remember ever seeing Laura Ingraham push back so much. And she did that on a couple occasions in this interview. I thought she did a remarkable job. I thought it took a lot. Well, she's a trained attorney, and she's been in the policy world a long time. But I thought that took a lot of courage on her part, or frustration, or both. But I was glad she did that. Joining me now is Gordon Chang. Mr. Chang, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you so much, Brandon. And Laura, like you, is a hero.
Well, thank you. Have you ever seen her push back so much?
No. And as you're right, she pushed back on a number of issues during that interview, but especially with the 600,000 Chinese students. And, Trump gave her answers. I don't think Trump's answers were correct. I think they were misguided. And Laura stood up to him.
So 600,000, we need the 600,000 Chinese students in here. Otherwise, these universities collapse. Like she said, so what? These are not pro-American universities. We were just reporting on the Worldview Report tonight about one of these universities that is got a curriculum that is just absolutely pro-Maoist and quoting Black Panther Angela Davis. I mean, this is the kind of garbage going on these campuses.
Yes, and part of it is because the Chinese students are there. So these universities, they self-censor. They don't allow Tibetan voices, for instance. They don't allow voices of Chinese dissidents because they're worried about what the Communist Party will do to them. So, there's always a problem with woke ideology among the left, and it's taken over universities. But it's made so much more worse because of the Chinese Communist Party.
What do you think has gotten into President Trump? We ask a lot of guests this. He's not the same president that he was in his first term. I'm assuming you would probably agree with that. And if you do, why do you think that's the case?
Well, I certainly agree with you. And I think that he, it's just my guess, but, he's always been very pro-business, and he views this as an issue of bringing money into the United States. And yes, Chinese students do account for, I don't know, it was like $13 billion or so of services income. But the point is, or it might have been a little bit less, but the point is that I think Trump is looking at it that way. And he's probably thinking he doesn't want to disrupt events before the midterms. I don't know what's going through his mind, but I can tell you this, he's absolutely wrong. We had about 277,000 Chinese nationals in our colleges and universities in the school year that ended in 24. So it's basically Trump is talking about doubling that. And clearly we've got a problem. Chinese students have been engaged in espionage. They've been engaged in acts coercing other students. This is a problem, and we know that it's been going on for decades. Trump's not the only one guilty of this, but we have allowed the Chinese diplomats and Ministry of State security agents to operate these large networks that monitor, coerce, and surveil Chinese students and other students for that matter. And this is our country, Brannon. We shouldn't put up with this.
That's right. And now the H-1B visas, that's really going viral today. A lot of people upset. A lot of MAGA base, are frustrated. A lot of the young guys are frustrated because they were, counting on jobs and they're having a hard time finding jobs. And a lot of organizations companies are still doing the diversity thing and quota thing. And they can't compete with foreign labor being brought in, or foreign labor brought in who then contract out to more foreign labor overseas when they get into the management at these companies. We're experiencing that. You were at our national conference. You were here in Carterville. And we just had an article written about our town. There's a national article written about our town on how many folks from India are here. The CEO of FedEx is a gentleman from India, and he's bringing in a lot of Indian workers. And apparently we see that around town. They're hard workers. They tend to be very dedicated to their family. So I'm not going after them. I'm going after the American corporations. I don't blame them. I understand what it is they're doing for themselves and their family. But they get into management, and we're told that they hire a lot of people back over in India to do work over there. And we're seeing this in our own town right here. And this is being duplicated around the country. How much of this is happening with HB1 visas when it comes to Chinese experts in computers and technology?
Well, it's a lot less than with the Indian H-1Bs. The point here, whether we're talking about Chinese, Indians, or Albanians, the point here is that America should be for Americans, and Americans can't get jobs because of the abuse of the H-1B program. So really what we're talking about now is that a whole generation of Americans are denied basic opportunities in their own country, in our own country, Brannon.
And China doesn't do that to their young people, do they?
No. And matter of fact, there are foreign workers in China, but, we're seeing the same thing in China. Chinese are starting to say, why are you bringing in all of these foreigners? So this is something which is common. And I think that President Trump needs to go back and rethink what MAGA actually means. I mean, he told Laura that MAGA wants additional Chinese students in our country. I actually don't think so.
No, they don't. Well, someone said he should go do a MAGA rally. He needs to go back out, do some MAGA rallies, and get connected back with his base. Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen said if he went to his own MAGA rally right now, he might get booed, right? He might get booed by some of the people. They had no problem booing him when he would bring up the COVID shot, right? And he was like, whoa. So I don't know. He could start talking about jobs and whatnot, and people might not be happy. He may not get a good response, but he's going to have to correct course quickly.
Yes. There's also a broader context to this. When President Trump in rallies, he says how great his relationship is with Xi Jinping or with Kim Jong-un. He doesn't get a good reaction out of that either. And I think that Trump is, and I don't, not in his head, of course, but the point is that he has views right now that are angering big portions of the American public, whether you call them MAGA or not. Trump is getting out of touch with important elements in the American society, and some of them are his supporters.
Now, let's talk about an area. We'll try to be balanced here, try to be. Let's see if we can find something where we might agree with President Trump. How about the area of Venezuela? Now, I've been concerned, as I think you have been too, about the influence of China, Hezbollah, Iran, Russia, Cuba in Venezuela. And now we have a headline at Fox: China moves into Venezuela as Maduro regime gets Beijing lifeline amid U.S. tensions. But we've been hearing for some time, we were reporting several years ago about the commander of Southcom saying China's in our backyard, referring to, South America. We know that Iran is there as well, and I'm concerned about hypersonic missiles going in there. So are the organizations that they've organized here working together, China, Russia, Iran, are they all working together to be in our backyard with hypersonic missiles and use that as some kind of blackmail against us? Or just intimidation? Are we going to find ourselves in a Venezuelan missile crisis like Cuba?
We could very well. And we could also end up with a second Cuban missile crisis, except instead of the Soviets, we could have the Chinese. And what President Trump is doing in our hemisphere is 100% right. He is actually showing political will and kicking the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians out. Now, he's got a long way to go. But for instance, targeting these drug boats in international water, where he's getting a lot of heat for it. But thank God he's continuing it, because Venezuela has been attacking the United States. It's been doing it with drugs. And we know it goes to the top of the Venezuelan regime, the cartel of the Suns. That's not gangsters. Those are Venezuelan military officers and Maduro himself. Plus also those caravans during the Biden administration, those were organized by Venezuela to attack American sovereignty. We know that from the funding for those NGOs, quote unquote, that were organizing the caravans. They had the backing of the Venezuelan government. So, President Trump has said, no, I'm not putting up with this. And that's great, because we haven't had a president who has taken that view.
Tell me about what's going on, the latest with China and Taiwan. I hear they're positioning some boats and exercises and different things. Tell us the latest.
Yeah, this has actually been quiet recently, and it's because China has been taking on both the Philippines and Japan, shifting its focus. Now, that's not to say that China has abandoned its plans to take over Taiwan. By no means. They've shifted their tactics, and we see some of the hostile military maneuvers with the boats and the planes circling Taiwan. But mostly with regard to Taiwan these days, we see China trying to infiltrate Taiwanese society. And they've been actually quite successful with that. But when it comes to China's military pressure, recently there have been some very belligerent moves against Japan and some belligerent and continuing belligerent moves against the Philippines. And that's where China's military focus has been over the last several months.
What about Chinese fishing boats in our waters? That's in Alaska, correct?
That's in Alaska, but we also seen recently the Chinese fishing fleets pressure Argentina. And there, the U.S. Coast Guard has been cooperating with the Argentine Coast Guard to try to protect their waters. But, these Chinese fleets are predatory. They're off of Argentina, they're off of Chile, they're off of so many other countries, but including ours, which just shows you how aggressive and brazen the Chinese have been recently. They just don't care. They just think that they can violate other countries' sovereignty. And, part of it is, Brannon, we've had presidents, both parties, liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats, that have allowed the Chinese to violate our sovereignty, both on our soil and in our waters. So, of course, the Chinese are taking advantage of us. And the one thing that President Trump has been doing is he's saying, not on his watch. And that's great.
Yeah, that is good. What about South Korea? What is the latest there?
Within the last 24, 36 hours, the South Korean government has sent 100 police officers with search and arrest warrants, and they took into custody the former Prime Minister Wong. And this follows this week additional charges against the former president, Yoon Suk Yeol. He was arrested on Monday for aiding an enemy state. He's already in state custody for quote unquote insurrection. All of these charges, Brannon, are bogus. What we are seeing is the end of democracy. Lee Jae-myung is, who's the president. He stole an election, or at least he engaged in widespread irregularities in the June 3 snap election. And he's now using all the levers of state power to turn to South Korea at least into an authoritarian state and maybe going to full totalitarianism. He's certainly moving South Korea into China's orbit. And the Trump administration needs to say something about this, because we could end up 6 months, 9 months from now, where we have a military alliance with essentially a communist state. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying that's the trend right now, and we better stop it.
And what does South Korea have that North Korea wants, what that the communists want, other than people? What is it? Assets? Is it minerals? Is it the what? There must be something they're after other than just more land.
Yeah, there are a couple things. The most important is they need legitimacy in North Korea. You've got two Korean states. The Koreans in the North, they're willing to sacrifice, but they look at the people in the South and it's prosperous. And they ask, how come they're not prosperous? So it's an issue of legitimacy. And that means that North Korea needs to destroy South Korea. Even if South Korea ends up to be a radioactive heap, that's okay with regard from the North Korean Kim Jong-un's point of view, because he's eliminated the number one threat, the existential threat to his regime. Now, the Chinese probably view it a little bit differently. They want Samsung. Samsung makes about 8% of the world's most sophisticated chips. They want its technology. They want the business in South Korea. And they want to eliminate democracy. Because again, any democracy, especially one on China's periphery, is an existential threat in the view of the Communist Party.
Now, there's been a lot of back and forth with China and Japan. I think one of China's folks talked about beheading one of Japan's leaders, right?
The Osaka General Counsel for China 3 or 4 days ago posted that that if the Japanese Prime Minister, Sanai Takaichi, continued to stick her head in places where it shouldn't be, that it should be cut off. Now, this mirrors language that this Consul General used against Pete Hegseth about a month or so ago. And then also, this was not just some sort of rogue Consul General, because we know that as the Consul General was talking about assassination of the Japanese Prime Minister, a Chinese fishing boat rammed a Japanese Coast Guard vessel in Japanese waters.
Is that this footage right here, Mr. Chang? Is that this footage right here?
Yes, I believe so. Yep.
And so that is a Chinese boat ramming
Fishing vessel.
Yeah. That's a Japanese fishing vessel?
No, that's a Chinese
fishing vessel. That's a Chinese vessel. Okay. And what did they end up doing?
The Chinese fishing vessel tried to ram the Japanese Coast Guard vessel, and I think actually succeeded. So that's a little bit unclear, and you can see it right here.
There you go. There's a contact. So why would a Chinese fishing vessel want to do that? Are they, I guess, again, are the Chinese using these fishing vessels as decoys? Are those really Chinese fishermen, or is there more going on, or is that just angry Chinese doing that? In other words, we've heard of countries using fishing vessels, maybe putting a Club K cargo system on a fishing vessel, different things. So I guess what I'm getting at is this trying to use a fishing vessel to do something that undercover, a little camouflage, or is this Chinese fishermen that are really upset?
Yeah. Well, the Chinese fishermen, there's over 500,000 Chinese fishing boats. They call it the little blue men or the blue hulls. and they're used as essentially part of the Chinese Navy. The Chinese have what called gray hulls, which is the formal Navy, the white hulls, which is the Coast Guard, and the blue hulls, which are the Marine militia, which is what you see on this video. And the Chinese try to take over Japanese territory. And they've been doing this, especially there was the big incidents in 2010 where the Japanese actually seized a Chinese fishing boat in circumstances similar to this one. And China then imposed a rare earth embargo on exports of those items to Japan. So this has been a long-running dispute. The Japanese and the Chinese have overlapping territorial claims. The Chinese claims, by the way, are almost baseless. But the point is that China has been enforcing its claims through forceful tactics like the one that you see here.
Mm-hmm. So what is the end game for China when it comes to Japan? I mean, we've talked a lot about China going against Taiwan. What's the end game of China for Japan?
Well, first of all, Chinese leader Xi Jinping has been pushing the imperial era notion that China is the world's only legitimate state. So Japan claims, of course, its own sovereignty, and that is an affront to the Chinese. And by the way, our sovereignty is an affront to the Chinese as well, because they believe that we're not legitimate. They don't believe the Japanese are legitimate. But there are a couple other things with regard to Japan, and that is that Japan and Taiwan actually are on the same archipelago. And the Japanese, understand that if the Chinese seize Taiwan, that their security is endangered. So Japan has been very vocal and very resolute. And that's what gave rise to that comment from the Osaka Consul General, because Takeichi said that if China were to seize Taiwan, then Japan would have to mobilize. And that's just very clear that Japan would have to do that. So really what you've got is Japan is seen as a stumbling block to China annexing Taiwan.
And then let me ask you about Pete Hegseth. He's out saying, look, we've got to get on a war footing. And they want to be known as the Secretary of War, not the Defense Department. I guess the defense word is gone. It's the War Department now, and the Secretary of War. And we need to get on a war footing. What, if you had to guess, and maybe so maybe you don't need a guess, but what do you think? If there's a war coming, where does it happen first, and where does it spill over to after that?
I don't know the answer to the question, but I suspect that if a war starts, it starts on American soil. And the reason is that the Chinese want to get the United States, make sure that we're not in the fight. And we've got Chinese agents and operatives and soldiers on our soil in cells, and we know that they are ready to strike. So yes, there will be a war, or I think there'll be a war, and it'll start here. One way this war starts is we know that the Chinese had at least one secret biological weapons lab. It was in Reedley, California. And inside they had at least 20 pathogens, according to the official account, and almost 1,000 mice that have been genetically engineered to spread disease. So the war starts, perhaps, at least I think, it would start with strange diseases showing up in the United States, and they would be spread by the Chinese. And that is to disable us and to make sure that we're not be able to defend our friends and allies. And
didn't we just see some professors tied to the University of Michigan coming in with more pathogens, or trying to?
Yes. In June, they were caught or charged with trying to smuggle in a fungus. And then just a week ago, 3 more Chinese nationals were charged with trying to smuggle in roundworms. And, people may say, well, we have that fungus and we have those roundworms in our country, so why were the Chinese trying to do this? And the reason is, especially with the fungus, it's almost certain that the fungus that were brought in were genetically modified. So they weren't in our country. And it's probably true with regard to the roundworms as well. This is part of, I believe, a coordinated and sustained attack against American agriculture. They are trying to plant invasive species here. They're trying to spread diseases. They're going after our food supply. So these roundworms and this fungus, these are weapons of mass destruction, Brannon. And this was an attack on the United States. And instead of sending these Chinese nationals through the federal judicial system, I think they should have been sent to Guantanamo.
Mm. And then in regards to these strike forces that look like they've been moved up from April of 2026 to January 1st of 2026, strike forces ready to go to all 50 states. Do you think this has to do with your thoughts that the next war could start right here on our soil? Do you think our government is aware of something that's making them move this date up for these strike forces?
Yeah, our government is aware of these Chinese networks, but the problem is that it's not the priority that it needs to be. I don't think anyone who's in the United States illegally should be allowed to remain, but I don't think that Tom Holman should be going after poor Mexicans at Home Depot parking lots. What he should be doing is going after Chinese and Iranians and Russians who are here prepared to kill Americans in large numbers. So we need to have a change, a reordering of priority of ICE. We need to go after the most dangerous elements. We know who they are. We know where they are. And yet we allow those networks in our country to remain.
Is that because of money?
Is
it money? Is it business with China? President Trump wants the 600,000 students here. We're not going to crack down on the Chinese people that have come here illegally that you're warning about and have been warning about. But we're going to go after the Mexicans, as you say, that are coming over here to work. Not that I want to see us be flooded with anybody from all kinds of places, but the Mexican painter or the Mexican carpenter is not a threat like the Chinese terrorist. So why do the Mexicans get nabbed, but we're not going after the Chinese? Does it have to do with the money situation with Xi Jinping in China?
Yeah, well, I'm not in Tom Holman's head either, but I don't think it's money. I think that it is a failure to appreciate the severity of the threat and the urgency of the threat. It is just a failure across the American political system to understand what is occurring and what could occur. So I chalk this up to a general lack of understanding. Remember, we did not understand the threat from Osama bin Laden, and we didn't even understand it after he killed 6 Americans in February of 1993 with the bombing in the North Tower of the World Trade Center. We just couldn't care less. So, yeah, it's inherent in American democracy that we have just oblivious.
One final point. Here is Marco Rubio. I think this is from this afternoon, this evening.
Trump's pledge to resume testing of our nuclear capabilities, that includes delivery systems, is on par with what other countries around the world are doing. We got to make sure these things work and that they're safe. In terms of the Chinese nuclear program, that wasn't discussed in any of our meetings. That's something that happened at the staff level, but these are longstanding concerns. I mean, the Chinese are undertaking the most rapid military buildup in human history. So, and part of that is their expansion of their nuclear capabilities. So obviously we're keeping an eye on that, and I think everybody's concerned about that.
Wow, most rapid buildup military capabilities in world history.
I love Marco Rubio, but I doubt that that's right. I think that the buildup of the United States prior to World War II was more rapid. But I get the point. It is the most rapid and the largest buildup since World War II. And we know that no nation threatens China. So we know that China is intending to go to war against others. As I mentioned, the Chinese leadership believes it has a right to rule the world. Matter of fact, Xi Jinping's officials in 2017 started talking about ruling the Mars and the Moon and considering them as sovereign Chinese territory. So Xi Jinping is the most ambitious aggressor in history. And that's why they want that military. And by the way, the Chinese probably have been testing nuclear weapons with fissile material in very small tests. So yes, it's very good for President Trump to say, look, we're going to do the same thing. That's absolutely necessary.
You're a very busy man. There's a lot going on in your wheelhouse, your area of expertise. and we're glad to have you back on. Folks, why don't you follow him right now? At Gordon G. Chang, at Gordon G. Chang. He writes a column regularly over at the Gatestone Institute. And of course, GordonChang.com, GordonChang.com. The best thing to do is follow him at Gordon G. Chang, as he puts up a lot of commentary and links and all the interviews that he does. And he's a very busy guy when it comes to writing columns and doing interviews. I don't think we've had you on since you were with us at our national conference. It was great to have you here with us, have your lovely wife as well. We just had a wonderful time. And we were you have a sense of humor that came out on the stage that I did not know you had. I said later, if he ever decides he doesn't want to write on geopolitics and national security, he could take it on the road. Boy, I did not realize you had such a witty sense of humor. You had them laughing quite a bit during a rather serious presentation. But we guys got so many wonderful reports. So thank you for being here for that national conference.
Well, Lydia and I can't tell you how much we appreciated your hospitality, Brandon, and how much fun we had at the national conference. And so we are very, very thankful to be a part of it.
Well, thank you. We look forward to having you back. Greet your lovely wife, and thanks again for making time for us tonight.
Well, thank you, Brandon.
Gordon G. Chang checking in tonight. Check out his site on X, at Gordon G. Chang, at Gordon G. Chang. And he's got a lot of books, folks, including the one recently on the China plan. It's not a very long book. So if you're trying to get someone to read a book, maybe they won't read a long book. This is a nice size book. They could actually read it in one setting and get an understanding of what China's plans are. The China plan, you'll find it on Amazon. Just type in Gordon G. Chang on Amazon. You'll see all of his many books there. And of course, he's doing so many interviews daily. And if you follow him on X at Gordon G. Chang, he is very good about putting up the interviews he's doing and in what time, so you can keep track, as well as a link to all of his columns and where he's speaking and everything else. So I check his Twitter feed quite a bit at Gordon G. Chang. We'll be right back after this break. Take a look at this picture. This is my beautiful wife. Does that look like a grandmother to you? Seriously, does that look like a grandmother to you? Well, she is. I took this picture on August 31st, 2025. Now, you want to know how she stays so young and beautiful looking? Well, I'll tell you right now, she does three things for sure. She takes new meat every day that's loaded with glutathione to detox your cells. She also takes Bella Grace each and every day, loaded with 3 powerful ingredients. And she takes Gatatana, 1 scoop, the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. So you can get all of these products that she and myself take each and every day at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. It's a great way to support your health and also our broadcast network as we continue to push out free Christian worldview programming. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Joining me now is Dr. Mark Lucky. He's the guy that was behind developing the Bella Melt, which is going crazy. Now, there's a lot of controversy about different things like Ozempic and other types of GLP-1. But here's the beautiful thing about Bella Melt. Correct me if I'm wrong, doctor. What it actually does is your product stimulates your natural body's GLP-1. That's why it has no negative side effects, right?
That's exactly right. The way we formulated this Bella Melt was to decrease or not have any of the medication or prescription drug in it, but use natural products, botanicals, and amino acids and other vitamins and minerals to stimulate your own natural GLP-1 that lives inside your body.
So you get all the benefits without any of the negative side effects.
That's exactly right. No nauseousness, no muscle fatigue, or no muscle loss and no fatigue.
And we're also hearing that this Bella Melt has a lot of cardiac benefits, right?
It does have cardiac benefits, but it also has the benefit right away. Like right when you take the Bella Melt and let it just dissolve in your mouth, you're going to curb your cravings. You're going to suppress that appetite, and you're going to start burning fat as fuel. And that's where that cardiac output comes out.
Some of our audience now has been on it long enough, and they're starting to call in, talk to Melissa, and tell us, hey, I'm losing 3 or 4 pounds a week.
Yeah, that's very common, 3 to 5 pounds a week on our Bella Melts. But again, we're preserving muscle, we're preserving your teeth, we're preserving your face and other areas of your body that tend to really lose collagen when you're using a prescription or drug. We don't have those side effects with our Bella Melt. caramels.
What about any benefits for like fighting Alzheimer's or dementia? Anything there?
Well, whenever you can lower the inflammation in the body, you can burn fat for fuel, and you can get out and really enjoy life again, that's going to cut those other other disease processes down.
So this has a lot of benefits.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. I mean, we're seeing people who are now getting up off the couch. They're putting the chips away. They're putting all the processed foods away. Those pantry demons are not calling them, and they're out getting some more exercise than they ever have before, losing the weight, blood pressure going down, cortisol levels going down, just enjoying themselves for having less fat on their bodies.
And it's selling like crazy, isn't it?
Yes, sir. The company has doubled in the last month. Yes, sir.
The company has doubled. And the amazing thing is once people subscribe to this, I mean, they can order it at mosthouseBG.com, but they get a subscription it shows up. The retention on this and the great elixir, the retention is huge, which is because it works or people would cancel their subscriptions, right?
That's exactly right. We're about an 80 to 82% reorder rate every single month. And those are staying consistent over the past 3 years with our Bella Grace Elixir and now with our Bella Melts as well.
Now, I want to switch to the Elixir real quick, because I've been on it since December 2023. I've shown this picture many times, Doc, and this was on a good day. Okay, that was considered a good day. I mean, a lot of times it was way worse than that. My hands are so clean right now. I don't have that going on. My hands are just beautifully clean. I don't have to worry about getting blood on my tie, my pants, my sheets at night. This bothered me for years and years and years. And I got on Bella Grace, gone. And of course, you're the one that told me that your stomach lining is made of collagen. So, Howse, you likely had a leaky gut, and the high-end collagen with the peptides cut short in the Bella Grace, your body was able to absorb it, heal your leaky gut, and your psoriasis and other problems were able to be healed then, right?
That's exactly right. And you said the key word there, peptides. We use peptides are amino acids, and that's one thing that's our Verisol B collagen is collagen peptides. And the body knows exactly what to do, where to go repair, regenerate, and rejuvenate. And that's exactly what happened with you.
And again, I know the stories we've gotten in the testimonials, they sound almost too good to be true. And when we first started getting these testimonials, we're like, I don't know. I mean, that sounds almost unbelievable. And then we would get another one and another one and another one. And pretty soon we're like, okay, this product's really doing this. These aren't just people imagining it. Like someone who couldn't bend their finger, was gonna have surgery, got on the Bella Grace, and within a few weeks, they can bend their finger, they canceled the surgery. We have got so many people saying this. I couldn't walk around a big box store without great pain. People have even said, we thought we'd try and see about getting off of it to see what would happen. My problem returned, so I got back on the Bella Grace again. I mean, these stories are almost unbelievable until you start getting so many of them and you know who the people are. And you're like, well, we're not getting all these testimonials because they're making it up. It's really doing these things.
That's exactly right. We call it the power of three because of those three unique and different ingredients. You've got the Verisol B collagen that we just spoke about. You've got the astaxanthin and the cat's claw. Three of them together, we have 80 human clinical trials on this product. And more importantly, it really does a great job of turning the gene markers off for inflammation in the body. And we know that inflammation is the root cause of all disease processes, but it turns on the gene markers for more human collagen production. And this is, again, why people report decrease in joint discomfort, decrease in inflammation, hair, skin, and hair, skin, now
and nails.
But yeah, as well as gut health as well.
Well, my hair growth, I've been telling you guys about it. I saw Logan was post editing my concert from 2024, and I said, Logan, look how much thicker my hair is now than it was in October of 2024. So even that 1 year is making a huge difference.
Yeah, it's really incredible. These are some of the studies, the results of the studies in blue right behind me. So you got firmer and smoother skin, fewer wrinkles. You've got decrease in cellulite, fuller, thicker hair. You've got supporting that, inflammatory responses. all these things here are the benefits of taking our Bella Grace elixir, supporting joint health and all the other things.
My daughter was sitting across from me at a restaurant a few months ago, and she said, "Dad, you actually look younger now than you did a couple years ago." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah. Your skin looks better." She said, the lack of wrinkles, your hair growth. And I said, "Well, thank you. I mean, I always love hearing that." But when I look back at pictures, I can see it. I actually do look younger now than I did a few years ago. Only thing I can contribute it to is Bella Grace. I'm taking my Bella Grace. I'm taking my Numi with the glutathione in it. I'm taking my Gatatana with the phytoplankton in it. I mean, all around good health has a way of actually kind of turning back the clock. And I can see it in the pictures. And my own daughter, sitting across from me, came into town a few months ago and said, you look younger than you did a few years ago. And she wasn't saying it because she was trying to give me a compliment. She was being dead serious because she went to esthetician school and did all this kind of stuff. She knows about the power of these products.
I love that. Beauty starts from the inside out, not the outside in. So when you can start with a product like our Bella Grace elixir, it sets you up to be just a much healthier person, and beauty will come from that.
Wow. MelissaHouseBG.com. Folks, it's not only a great way, I think, to support your health, but this network as well. We would be in big trouble without sponsors like Bella Grace. So every time you make a purchase there, folks, they're giving a generous percentage back to keep our network going, supporting the work we do. So folks, it's very, very important. If you're looking for a way to support your health, which I think this will do, I think the 80 clinical plus trials show it, Bella Grace, then the great Bella Melt, the skincare, there's all kinds of stuff there for you at MelissaHouseBG.com. Great way to help yourself, great gifts for someone else, but you're supporting us at the same time. I cannot underestimate how important this is, or I cannot tell you guys how important it is that you help yourself while helping us at the same time. It's a win-win for everybody. Closing comment, Dr. Lucky?
Yes, we have a sale going on right now. It's 25% off on sale-wide or statewide products. That excludes the elixir and the Bella Melts, but the skincare line that you just mentioned, 25% off. Get to MelissaHouseBG.com, order the products. You're going to support great causes. And just one more sentence, Brett. We have some new things coming in December that I'll be able to share with you under an NDA right now, as always. But February, our CEO and founder is going to make the most important announcement in her career here at Bella Grace. And I cannot wait to share that with you. Your whole entire organization and your listeners are really going to be proud, and they're going to even want to support us more.
Oh, love hearing that. All right. Thank you, Dr. Mark Lucky.
Y'all have a great night. Thank you. Always good to see you.
You too, my friend. Dr. Mark Lucky checking in. MelissaHouseBG.com. Joining me now is the lead pollster at Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell. What a day. Trump is getting eaten alive on Twitter today, on X today. Yep, right? I mean, I'm going to play some of the clips, but okay, I'm just going to say maybe the bruising on the hand, the going missing for a while. Maybe he's had a stroke, because this is not the same Donald Trump that we had in the first term. Has he had a stroke? Because, some people have a stroke and they'll change their personality, everything about them. Has this guy had a stroke? Because truly you can't be the Trump you had in the first term to the Trump this term. Something has happened to the guy. Can I go with the route that is more complimentary and, not questioning him personally, but saying it's something physiological, medical, a stroke? I mean, what is going on here?
I mean, I think it's reasonable to ask those questions. I spent yesterday having people texting me gifts from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's like, who is this guy? He doesn't understand his movement at all. And it's like, maybe this has been creeping up, but to come out and just say it all at once, this was always about, like, listen, he built an economic populist platform. He built a new wing of the Republican Party, and he ran on Drain the Swamp and economic populism. And then he comes out and he says, after not draining any swamp, he comes out and says, well, don't talk to me about affordability. And now he's going to eat with a whole bunch of billionaires tonight in the White House. It's like, we're cooked. Like, that's it. I think the movement's over. Now, I'll look at Trump's approval rating, and it's like -9 today, which is the lowest of the term.
Wait, well, what does that mean? To the non-pollster, what is -9? He's down 9 points.
Yeah, that's net approval. So that's approve minus disapprove. So he's underwater 9 points, which could be worse. You know, Biden spent a lot of time underwater 20, but it's going to go down. And the Republican numbers haven't dropped yet. Really, he's still got an 80% approval rating among Republicans. But right direction polling is now down to 37, which we broke the 37-week streak of 40% and above. And I think the numbers are going to collapse more because I've covered Donald Trump for a long time. I know his movement inside and out. In fact, it would appear I know his movement better than he does at this point in time. And, I spent all week reading over 300 DMs from disaffected young men who are just insanely mad that he's given up on them. Like, he is the oligarchy now, and they wanted the oligarchy smashed.
I want to read some of those. I want to read some of those. I don't know if it was you or other people, but I think maybe I told you this about 2 months ago. I said, if he doesn't change course, he'll go down as one of the most unpopular presidents in modern history. Did I tell you that on the air?
Yeah.
And so
that's what it's going to be. 100%.
I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to it because I saw this trajectory 2 months ago. Not that I'm the smartest guy in the room, but like you, I've been following Trump a long time. All right. I used to, when I raised my kids and a motor coach traveling, doing Worldview weekends, I was so intrigued by him on The Apprentice that when we were traveling, we would set our schedule to make sure we got to the location for the night where we needed to be in time to watch The Apprentice. Because I was so intrigued by this guy, I'd raised in the 80s like you. So, I grew up knowing Donald Trump. Everybody did in the 80s, right? So I'm very intrigued by just watching him interact with people on this reality show. I don't know how much of it was reality, but I've been following him intensely since the 80s and then into his show Apprentice. And then when he came down the escalator, my wife came in the day, hand me some coffee. She said, what do you think? And I said, I'm all for it because I want this guy to destroy the Republican Party. I'm sick of the Republican Party. So who cares? Let him come in and expose them and destroy the Republican Party, and we can rebuild the real conservative Reagan movement. And so I, like you, have been following him. And when about 2 months ago, and I said, if this trajectory continues, he'll go down as one of the worst presidents. Because I thought, if this guy is compromising on this, well, then these pins are going to fall too. And then you have the people on the left and then the people on the right, and you start adding those numbers together. Well, those are going to be pretty negative poll numbers at the end of his presidency.
Yeah, that's right. 100%. And I don't know if we'll get into Carter or Bush territory in his second term, but he will probably be not treated kindly by history because I think he got a pass the first time around because who could expect that the Republican Party and all of Washington, D.C. was that corrupt? I mean, we talked about the deep state, but we really didn't know the depths. But we walked into this one knowing exactly what Washington, D.C. was, and Trump being a politician for like almost a decade, right? And so if he loses, it's because he didn't understand his job, didn't accomplish anything, didn't hire the right people, didn't actually take action. I mean, remember, just in the first term, we heard all the time about Trump accomplishments and people were publishing lists and everybody's like, oh, look at this guy. He's actually doing something. Well, this is supposed to be like the final form of Donald Trump. And I think it's objectively not as good. He's got a lot of things he's working on. And he's probably got a lot of things he succeeded at, but I'm not hearing them. Like, they are not communicating well. They're not portraying like a plan that people can get behind in order to feel good about the movement. And the Republicans are completely MIA. They've completely abandoned themselves. I think it's possible that Trump finishes out the term with pretty good approval rating, assuming they don't impeach him, because he does well when he's railing against the Democrats, or at least he used to, and maybe he won't have the energy. I don't know. But I feel like the Republican Party, having been given this one chance, this is the best chance the right is ever going to have. And I know they have a ton of excuses, but also I think we're going to know that the Republican Party is really much, much, much more corrupt than everybody ever thought. Yep. They don't believe anything. They just steal money. Yep. And they want to lose because they want their special interests to keep control. We're seeing that. Like, me and you might disagree about some certain Israel things, but you have to admit that the establishment wing of the Republican Party is not helping the movement right now because they want to keep this legacy influence. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that on the internet, the voters can tell that they're not being put first. And the party that wins going forward is going to be the party that can put the voter first.
Well, I'll tell you,
that's what's going to happen.
I'm a Christian Zionist. You know that, but I'm going to say it a million times. I'll say it again. That does not mean I am endorsing this Netanyahu administration. He turned his own people over to be lab rats for Pfizer, in my opinion, from the video I saw him on. I am not for a lot of the things that this government does. It is a people that are largely in unbelief. They came back together as a nation in 48 officially. That started to help fulfill Old Testament prophecies of them returning the dry bones prophecy. The next one is they get filled with the breath, spirit, meaning regenerated, becoming believers in Yeshua. That hasn't happened. So this is not that Israel yet that's been revived, but it's coming together. So am I supportive historically and biblically of the Jewish people in their land? Yes. Does that mean I agree with everything the secular government does? No. Does that mean we should be sending foreign aid to Israel? No. Does that mean we should put boots on the ground in Israel? No. But yet that's exactly what apparently Donald Trump's going to do. $500 million to build a base and put U.S. military in the Gaza. I mean, I covered that with my reporter on the ground in Israel today. Yeah. And I said, I am 100% opposed to this right here. Show that. The U.S. is reportedly planning $500 million military base on the Gaza-Israel border to host thousands of troops supporting a ceasefire. That Gaza thing looks like it's going to end up being a World Economic Forum, United Nations, 15-minute city. They're probably going to end up putting the Ben Gurion port right through Gaza, so it ends up coming down to all about money. And let me tell you, Benjamin Netanyahu isn't all that popular with his people. They're confused. He's flip-flopping like a guppy. Trump's flip-flopping like a guppy. I'll tell you what, this is laying the foundation, in my opinion, if I go back to Bible prophecy, for a one world leader to step on the stage who just happens to be able to perform counterfeit miracle signs and wonders. And he's like, you want to believe all those other politicians? All those other politicians were full of hot air, not a whole lot of action. I'm full of action. You want me to validate who I am? And boom, he starts performing counterfeit miracle signs and wonders, right? Why did Jesus perform miracles? Because he wanted to put on a show and attract an audience? No, to validate who he was. Antichrist, under the control of Satan, is going to perform counterfeit miracles to try to show the world, I can validate my message by doing things too. And don't you think the world is now ready for a politician that can actually do something versus just say something? And when this guy starts performing counterfeit miracle signs and wonders, boom, I mean, holy cow. So you and I may disagree here and there, but I don't think there's a whole lot of daylight between us when it comes to America first and not sending troops over there and sending money over there and spilling blood over there. No, I just believe they have a biblical and historical right to the land, and I'm not for anti-Semitism.
Yeah, so like we talked a lot about this whole thing and what exactly happened, and for people who might not have followed very closely, Tucker Carlson is a troll. I like him. I kind of like his stuff. A lot of people don't like him, but he definitely trolled the Jewish people really, really hard. 5 days before the Republican Jewish Coalition, he had Nick Fuentes on his show. People might not know who this guy is, but he's a hard right guy. And people say he's a Nazi. Like, he's literally not a member of the National Socialist Party. He does what a lot of young men do, which is rebel against older people who have a lot of scruples by, taking their values and stomping on them. And a very, very, very deeply held boomer value is being super pro-Israel because they saw the state form. It's just part of their value set. And there's this whole idea of this foundation myth. I don't mean that World War II Jewish stuff is a myth, but this idea that their generation was formed on a post-World War II view of the world that is very Nazi-centric, right? And so for somebody to come along and say, hey, we're young men, you're not paying attention to us, I'm going to, stomp on something you care about. That's why he's anti-Semitic. And then he has this whole other value set, which is hey, we should be concerned that there's less Christians here. We should be concerned that our society is being degraded by immigration and that we share nothing in common with our neighbor. We should care about the fact that there is no rule of law. And those are all aspects of a platform I think that people hope is part of what Trump's movement is. But Trump's movement was about economic populism and draining the swamp. None of those things are really being addressed, in my opinion, in a way that is reflecting success with the voters.
In fact, to the contrary, Trump is now saying we have to have 600,000 Chi-Com students come in here as potential spies, which a lot of them turn out to be. Now the Americans, they're too dumb to hold these jobs, so we need to bring in HB1 visa more. We need more Indians from India and Asians to take American jobs. And in fact, here's what he said. Here's what's just driving people nuts today. Here we go.
There's never going to be a country like what we have right now.
And does that
the
mean
Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands
of
foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Well,
I'll
give you an example.
Wait a minute. How did we take women out of the house in World War II and have them making bombs? I mean, wasn't that Rosie the Riveter? Wasn't that what she was?
Yeah, I'll give you a modern example. They take, naval officers with history undergrads and teach them to use a nuclear reactor in 12 months and put them to sea. And so it's easy to do, but here you can tell that Trump does not have the voters' priority first. First off, that whole conversation, he sort of glosses over the fact that the plant was employing tons of illegal immigrants and that there was no accountability for the business. And then what he did was he picked this edge case. Oh, this company's setting up a factory, and that's why they have to have their H-1Bs. That's like 1% of the H-1B bros. 99% of it is all just companies literally sending their engineering to India. And all of these major companies, like Walmart, 60 to 70% of their engineering is foreign nationals. And that's like almost every one of the Fortune 500s has been doing this. So one of the reasons, the prime reason, and everybody knows it online, one of the prime reasons that we are in this late stage capitalism is because all of the jobs were given to India. And so for him to come out there and argue to protect an edge case, to save something that's important for billionaires, not even understanding that this is a major problem. Like, he doesn't even know probably about the Vivek Ramaswamy Christmas massacre of December 2024.
Can you go back there? I was reading about that online today. What does that mean? Explain that to our audience.
Well, back on December 21st, if you want to look in Vivek's timeline, he made this post, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but he implied that America needs H-1Bs in India because we're so stupid and lazy, basically. Our education system has failed, and Americans don't want to work hard. Well, I got pushed out of Walmart essentially because mostly of H-1Bs, and I get sent, all the time. People, I had to train my replacement. These people are literally used to cut 10 to 20% of labor costs because that's what big corporations want to do, and the government has assisted them. The Republican and Democrat Party assisted them, and he doesn't even know this. He could solve all of his problems, not most of them, by canceling every visa. It would crash the housing market, which would allow Zoomers to be able to buy houses cheaply. It would free up $350 billion worth of annual salaries that could go to Gen Z. It would spike wages, of course, and that would be a wealth transfer from older people and corporations to the younger people. And it would literally rebalance the economic order in a way that is the only way that the right is going to win. The left will rebalance the economic order by taking, and the Republicans got to balance it by giving, to the youth. And he's not going to. And that's because he's surrounded by billionaires, and he's got an economic populist as his vice president. And I'm sending them the polling. Republicans hate big business. They are not the free market capitalists anymore. And people are you were talking about a return to Reagan conservatism. That had its chance, and the Republican Party was their avatar, and the Republican Party turned into a corrupt party that enriches itself. They had the best chance they were ever going to get of actually caring for the people. Yeah, I'll just tell you this, Brandon. I've been doing this job a while. Only 2 Republican legislators have ever come to ask me for polling. They just don't care. And we're the cheapest pollsters in the industry. Yeah. Ron Johnson and Eric Schmidt came to me. One of them was about election integrity, and another one was about vaccine polling. And I said, well, I have all this other stuff. You guys are pretty sucky on abortion. Do you want to know more about that? And I sent them some things. Never heard from them again. But the right doesn't want to win. Look at the 9 votes for the filibuster. Remember, and Trump, again, it's at a certain point, people are going to hold Trump accountable for lying in his campaign. And he promised that he was going to teach Republicans how to win. And quite frankly, the Republicans are the worst at winning I've ever seen in my entire life. It's only gotten worse. And this occupied territory is Washington, D.C.
Yep.
And now it's time. The Republicans had their chance. They're probably never going to get another one like this, and the system's going to have to burn down, and something's going to have to be built in the ashes. This is like literally Rome here.
I want to talk about what that system might be. However, I looked up while you were talking. Is this the interview you're talking about that he did last January? Let's listen.
The better. And if you think about it, Silicon Valley, right, has been at the bleeding edge of the American economy for the last 20 years, just by market capitalization, by innovation. I think the Ohio River Valley can be the
you want to bring Silicon Valley to Ohio.
Even one step more than that, to go to the next level where Silicon Valley isn't in terms of production. Whoa. Because I do think that's going to be the next wave of actual true innovation in America, is actually producing semiconductors.
But how do you do that? You think you just like get a lot more H-1B visas in Ohio?
Yeah. It starts with rolling back
How do you do with these retard Americans, bro?
Well,
we just got retarded Americans here in this country. There's no way we can figure out engineering.
Speak for yourself,
There's four of us right here. Yeah, we got four retards right here trying to figure out what the managerial class is.
So you know
we're too dumb.
You know what the sad part is?
Yes.
We're actually, some people say that.
What do you
mean? Some
mean?
people say that.
He's sitting on the couch right now. He's sitting right here, the guy who says it.
No, actually, so to the contrary.
Okay, yeah.
Because I said this in my now infamous tweet.
He got hacked.
I would that was all me.
The next one should have said
the problem with me. The problem with me with my tweets is nobody else reads them before I put them out. That is all me.
Fire them off. And Ohio State's in the championship game. You're like, all right,
when you have a busy year and you're on vacation with your family.
Yeah.
Maybe put down the Twitter account for a little while.
Where were you on vacation?
We're in Brazil.
Jack, take my phone.
We're in Brazil, and I was just like, you know what?
You saw them working. You were like, nah, these.
Well, so the thing is, the thing that off is actually a lot of people started saying the thing that you were saying, which is that actually there's some IQ differential in other countries versus the U.S. I don't think so. Actually,
we got to be the smartest.
I think that if anything, we are, because we have a good selection bias of who comes here for native IQ. But there's a big problem.
What?
So if we have at least no less smart and probably smarter on average than most countries, if not all countries, because of the selection bias of who comes here. Yet in 8th grade,
you're still saying it's the immigrants that come here to make us smart.
No, I mean then they're here for generations.
Still saying that.
They're here for generations.
Just say if you want it to be fine.
Oh, you wanted.
So he even references that tweet that he did.
Yeah, I just sent it to Logan. It's in his inbox. I mean,
Logan,
it's pretty insulting.
It?
Everybody just brutalized him. It had 153,000 likes, but
it's really long.
Million
there it is.
Views. Yeah, I mean, this basically probably destroyed his chances at national political office, in my opinion, because it just looks bad. It's like you can't call our culture lazy, and then it's like, okay, so you want to destroy our culture and change it into something else by importing everybody from another country here? There's an aspect of like ethnocentrism that many of the people who I've seen about this Indian debate, have talked about. And it's H-1Bs, but 70% of the program is India. The next highest is China at 12%. So it very much is a fact that corporations have basically ceded their engineering talent to another country. And I've dealt with these people. I worked at Walmart, 70% Indian, and there are smart people. But also, there are companies that track this more than any other country per capita. The Indians lie on their resume more, and I've seen their engineering practices. There's an aspect of quality assurance that's missing. A lot of problems. People have documented this. It's a high power distance country, which means that people underneath the boss will not challenge authority, which means a lot of problems get swept under the rug. And if you have ever had a Walmart order get messed up, it's because of a technology issue, because of these problems that have gotten swept under the rug. And so it's like, also let's acknowledge these are a member of an competing currency bloc, the BRICS. And so you have Russia that we're fighting a proxy war with. We have China, and we're conducting a proxy war with them, essentially, in Venezuela, who's a partner through their Silk Road initiatives, and they're waging 5th generation asymmetrical warfare against us. And then you have India, who literally is in every Fortune 500 technology company, in a way where if we ever got at war with them, I don't know how we would extricate ourselves. But you see this idea of are we dumber? No, we're not. Well, first off, he'll say hey, we can't compare different cultures' IQs. Well, the Zoomers online would disagree with you because they pass around charts, and there are differences in different cultures' IQs. It's a documented thing scientifically. So to say that's like a gloss of establishment political correctness, right? And then he's talking about, well, so we're not dumber, but it's our education system that's worse. Well, everybody under 50 that hears that is going to say, well, you're the ones that shoved multiculturalism and rainbow stuff down my throat. And that's the problem, is we have this generational divide. We could bring it back to Nick Fuentes, where people are going to say, well, the youth aren't as capitalistic. Don't they know history? And the youth are very right in saying, no, you stopped teaching us history and taught us gay stuff instead. They're 100% right. So we're at this fourth turning, changing of the guard. So, okay, so I'll go back to Tucker. Tucker talks to Nick. And everybody under 50 is like, oh, two people on the internet are talking. Interesting. I'll sit and listen to them. And everybody basically over 50 freaked out and said, he's an anti-Semite. You can't listen to that guy. Why is Tucker platforming him? Platforming is like a beta left-wing cancel culture word. And they'll say, well, we weren't trying to cancel him. And it's like, okay, but you haven't shut up yet. It's 3 weeks later and you're still talking about this guy, right? And so that was ahead of the Republican Jewish coalition. So Israel and the people that they support freaked out at that event. You had Ted Cruz, like you, publicly avowing himself as a Christian Zionist. In a way, right before an election, when people were like, well, I kind of thought it was about me, the voter. And so they created a very stark contrast. And then the conversation kept going and going. And from the beginning, I was like, there's going to be a Streisand effect blowback on this. The right way to deal with Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson is to pretend it never happened. And they didn't. They kept talking and they went after the guy at Heritage. Finally, Heritage Foundation gets an American first kind of guy. And there's an immediate mutiny. The staff is selling him down the river because establishment Republicans want their establishment back. Then J.D. Vance got up, and for the cardinal sin of saying that our own president isn't controlled by another country, the Israeli press freaks out, and all of these people trying to cancel Nick Fuentes go after J.D. Vance. The whole internet was like spreading Rubio DeSantis posters like last week. Like it was just a complete and utter freak out. The establishment wanted their establishment back, and they didn't care what kind of damage it did to the American First Movement or the Republican Party. They literally freaked out to the point where, I don't know if you know this, but my Twitter account, and you know, I know he doesn't tweet that much, but my account's really small. My Twitter account is now more influential than Ben Shapiro's. And all I was doing is saying, shut up, guys. You're going to make Nick Fuentes a big thing. Nick Fuentes was the number 134th most influential Twitter account last week globally. They literally gave this guy like 850,000 followers across all platforms, like over 2 billion social media impressions, 200 articles, like probably $20-30 million worth of earned media, all because they wanted him to shut up. They made more anti-Semites last week than probably have ever been made at once. And, you know, that's a problem. They don't care because they're using it for regime change within the Republican Party.
Well, the only thing I would say is to distinguish us and myself and our network from these people. We were talking about it because we've been on the Jewish thing and the rise of anti-Semitism. We did a conference in 2018 called Coming Holocaust Horizon on rise of anti-Semitism. So we talked about it because we're like, yeah, this is what we said was going to come if we keep not understanding, as you already said, history, right?
No.
So we talked about it. Maybe we get some of the blame, but we also talked about it because we have guys in our control room. They're in their early 20s, and a lot of their friends are into this guy. And some of them, and we've convinced a few of them, why you should not follow Nick Fuentes. And I went through it logically and with history and reason and logic. And guess what? Some of their friends now are like, wow, I'm sure glad you explained that. I didn't realize that's where, you know, what all that means. Because these kids don't know about history.
Well, here's the way I think people should look at Nick Fuentes. And I would update your understanding of him just based on anything he said since the Tucker interview. I think there's like pre-Tucker and post-Tucker for him. I don't follow him. I don't watch his stuff. But what I suspect is that he's going to moderate because he
already is.
The reins. He's good. Yeah, he should moderate.
He's already moderating. He's already come out and said that the guy in Mississippi should not have been using those expletives at Dave. What's his name? Dave Portnoy, and throwing his change at him, and that he shouldn't be behaving to people like that in public. He's already moderating himself.
Now, I don't know his heart and mind, but I think it's plausible to look at him and say that his behavior was about getting attention by pissing off the boomers, and it worked very, very, very well. Then they handed him all this power, and I don't think he expected that to happen.
But was Tucker just interviewing him because Tucker He was attacking Tucker all the time, apparently, I'm told. So Tucker, and he was cutting into Tucker's young audience of white young guys. And Tucker is selling a nicotine product that he needs to sell to white young guys. So maybe a way to get back some of the market share was to have Nick on and also scoop up some of Nick's white young guys to buy. Doesn't Tucker have a nicotine product?
Yeah.
So
he's got
could the whole thing at the end of the day
100%.
be about? Could the whole thing at the end of the day be about selling product to these white young kids?
Yeah. And that would be fine. He's a capitalist, you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't think Tucker really cares about, well, let me rephrase that. I think purposely Tucker knows a lot about the right, and he has a lot of connections, and he knows these politicians, and he's probably upset with them, and he doesn't like, I think, the power that things like Israel have over the Republican Party. And so I think he poked the bear, and it was very effective. But why he did it, like, kind of doesn't even matter. He did it. And now what happens is, yes, Tucker did have a strong youth following, and Nick Fuentes has a big one too. And you can look at Nick Fuentes' following, and the way it's not all Groypers. The way I kind of look at it is like he's probably got 100, 200,000 of core Groypers, and maybe 50 of those are the ones that will actually go to an event and, you know, talk about the USS Liberty or whatever, right? But then if you look at his viewership, he has more people watching his videos than Ben Shapiro does now by a lot. And he's on Rumble, and Ben Shapiro's got 14 times more followers on YouTube. So he is a large and growing and very relevant voice on the right. I know people don't want to hear that, but he's moderating, and that's good because he's not going away. And he has these people, and these people have been the pariahs of civilization recently. You have to admit that young white men have been trodden on by society, and they're mad. In fact,
let's go to what what you put out today, but one young man, because we can talk about Nick, but this is why Nick's getting a following. You put this out. Yep. Someone emailed you. I'm a millennial. I got a computer science degree at a community college with some certifications and worked some small tech labor jobs on and off. The area I'm from was devastated during the offshoring of basically every major business factory in the area during the 80s and 90s, and is pretty poor. Despite this, basically every job I worked at, some amount of it, HB1s or open illegals, as part of the workforce, despite there being hardly any work in this area. In 2017, I went back to college, graduated magna cum laude in computer science with a minor in business at a high-ranking college. My final semester was during COVID, and I basically lost everything. The most important being my internships. I had to move back in with my parents. I've been working odd jobs while trying to build a small business for myself. I've probably sent out 200 job applications since 2021, and I've had only heard back from 5, 3 of which were scams, and 2 of which I was rejected for, quote, lack of experience, end quote, for entry-level position I'm overqualified for. I voted for Trump 3 times, partly for cultural issues, but also because I knew he was the only chance of things getting better. I still think he was by far the best choice, and things would be worse now than the alternative. But his comments on the economy earlier in the week shook me a bit. And his most recent comments on H-1B that just released just left a pit in my stomach. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep tonight, or why I should even bother getting up in the morning. I've never been involved with crime or drugs, excelled in college for a tech degree with my parents and I paid out for a pocket, and I've never taken any form of government handout. Despite all this, I have lost all hopes for any prospects for my future unless something changes really, really soon. If this is the tune from the administration for the next 3 years, I don't think I'll ever bother with voting again. I've never felt more demoralized than I do tonight, end quote. So we can talk about the characters and the information, but this is where the rubber meets the road with the next generation. Right.
I think there's 20, 30, 40 million of these people. I think 5 of them probably watch Nick Fuentes now, 5 million of these folks. And so they're not going away. And the way I would frame it is you kind of got to understand why Nick Fuentes was doing all this stuff. And it's like you have 2 things going on right now. You have a youth democratic socialist wave that's taking root in blue cities. They are going to support people like Mamdani. It's mostly young women and young male feminists and, you know, Reddit weirdos and cat people and furries and stuff like that. And then you have white young men who have been pissed on. And they're getting done. And history tells us that usually young men are like the movers and shakers of society. They're building the buildings. They're like, you know, winning the bread. They're out there building families and leading the morality of the household. and building churches. And these are the people that society should lean on most, and they've been shoved into a corner. And so I'm just saying that there will be a reversion to the mean.
So what does this mean?
If you care about Christianity, if you care about conservatism, about Christianity, about shared cultural values, about the Constitution, about the American Republic, this whole experiment, you have to understand that these people will form the core of it. And right now they're being called Nazis.
Okay,
and
so what does that mean? A fourth turning, a revolution, a civil war? Yeah. And what is a fourth turning for those who don't know?
Okay. So the fourth turning is this idea that society comes in cycles because people grow up and have shared experiences, and those experiences change. And the way you can know it's right is try and think of an example like this. My wife's 2 years older than me. She was raised by silent generation. I was raised by boomers. You know, my mom picked me up when I fell and kissed me and, you know, cared about my feelings and talked about my dreams. And her dad was kind of like the beat you with a belt kind of guy. And so very different situations. And right now what we have is the boomer generation basically runs everything. And I don't mean that in some kind of like tinfoil hat way or discrimination way. I'm just saying if you look at politics, especially Washington, D.C., they over-index older people. These are the septuagenarians everybody's talking about in Congress. And the generation also did really well for themselves. They grew up in a land of milk and honey. They were raised in the 50s and 60s. These are the people that went to work at a corporation as the mail clerk and got all the way up to CEO and got a gold watch. And then they explored things like sex, drugs, and rock and roll and all this individualism. So they benefited from post-World War II very strong cultural values and a shared cohesion. And they took that and let it fall apart. And now, because they have strong values, they grew up with them, they're realizing, well, these values are important and I want to cling to them. Things like the World War II foundation myth. Hey, we are the allies and we punched Hitler in the nose and we're going to spread democracy around the world. And we have to have, you know, the Cold War and you know, we really support Israel. That's one of them. That's why there's a freak out over this. And then what you have is this younger generation who, especially the millennials, history tells us is the hero generation, because when the old guard finally loses control of its values, these people will take over and rebuild society. So there's this idea that after the crisis, society demands order and it creates strong institutions, so there's order, but then that order decays. Basically, hard times create strong men and strong men create good times. Where we are right now is that weak men have created bad times, and there will be a crisis now. This is the fourth turning. And the Zoomers are begging for strong men to create good times. That's where we're at. And they wanted a strong man. They don't care about conservatism. They don't really care about Constitution because they see the left pissing on it. And they thought that Donald Trump was going to be their strong man. And what are they seeing? No, he's just kind of another boomer with a party that's full of boomers that are talking about boomer things like Israel. And so that's the danger, is that these people are going to find something and they're going to build it themselves. They're going to build a new movement. On the left, they're smart enough to know that the youth wants democratic socialism. And so they're giving it to them. That's why people like Mandani are winning. That's why people like AOC are becoming increasingly the voice of the left. And the right is trying to desperately cling to these old values like boomers. And I'll give you one really great example. And that Trump stepped in it this week and pissed so many people off. So many people that, like, I'm literally joking about it online. I'm trying to help the guy. I really am, because I think he's the last best chance the right has before we have some kind of like dictatorial movement. But okay, housing is bad. This is the thing that the youth care about least. They can't start a family. And if you look at the median home buyer age in America over the last 20 years, it's gone up 20 years.
Yeah, it's like 37 now, right?
It went from not the first time home buyer, all home buyers.
Okay.
It's gone from 39 to 59 in 20 years. It's 59. Gone up 20 years. So the same people buying houses now are the same people that were buying houses 20 years ago, which means the youth have been completely shut out of the market, basically. And they're upset about that. And so Donald Trump says, you know what?
50-year mortgage.
He's not he's not laser focused on it. He's laser focused on turkey prices, which is ridiculous. Our problem is wage stagnation. Like, that's our problem, because Republicans and Democrats gave all the jobs overseas, right? So he comes out with a 50-year mortgage. So the 50-year mortgage will increase demand and not supply, so the prices will go up. It was presented by somebody in the home building industry who will get more rich if the prices go up. And now he's going to dine with Jamie Dimon tonight. Jamie Dimon will get more rich with 50-year mortgages. And the boomers will get more rich because their houses will go up. And what will, quite frankly, pretty cynically happen is that there will now be a few Gen Z who will decide to be debt slaves for 50 years and say, okay, finally I can bid on a house and get into this market and struggle. And they'll be buying from a boomer at the top, letting the boomer get out, getting in probably before the price crashes, and then saddling that person with 50 years of debt, tying them to a house that they can't get out of. Like, that's how bad it is. They're literally going to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars each more in interest loans to the banking industry. And so that policy was proposed by an oligarch, and it will do better for the oligarchy. The bankers, the home builders, and the boomers who are in power.
It was proposed by Pulte of Pulte Homes.
Yeah. And he might be a nice guy. I don't know. It was a stupid idea. The way to fix this, and I was talking about it in the spring, is a controlled detonation of the housing market. That is the way to fix this, because it would lower the price. It would allow Zoomers to get into the market. It would destroy some boomer wealth and transfer it to the youth. You know what I mean? It would take pressure off these people for living costs. And the best way, in my opinion, to control demolition of the housing market would have been literally to just cut 500,000 visas every quarter. Just cut them.
Wait a minute.
Gives people enough time to train.
But yet, this is what Kristi Noem just said.
Position on these visas.
Now, we're going to keep using our visa programs. We're just going to make sure that they have integrity, that we're actually doing the vetting of the individuals who come into this country, that they want to be here for the right reasons, that they're not supporters of terrorists and organizations that hate America. And that's what I think is so remarkable is under the Trump administration, we've sped up our process and added integrity to the visa programs, to green cards, to all of that. But also more people are becoming naturalized under this administration than ever before. More people are becoming citizens because we're not just streamlining and building some processes back into our immigration policies. We're also making sure that these individuals that are coming into our country and get that privilege, that they actually are here for the right reasons. The Biden administration let thousands of terrorists into this country. They opened the southern border. They abused our asylum programs, abused our protective programs and visa programs, and we fixed all of it. It's remarkable what President Trump has done, and it's because he's a great leader. He's a visionary, and this man is going to go down as a legend in history as our greatest president ever.
You buying it?
I can't. People were joking with her. And they said the worst thing about it is they thought that this was a win. Trump's supporters, 55% of them want less legal immigration, only 6% want more. And I did that poll months ago, and they can go to my site and subscribe and get the poll for free. I do this at it basically it's a charity. I gave them the right answers, and she doesn't even know what the right answers are.
Is this going to set up a loss for JD? I mean, how on earth could JD win if this is his administration?
Well, in my opinion, it makes it tough for so you look at, I think 2026 is a done deal, to be honest with you. I think the Democrats win it. And
They impeach Trump? They impeach Trump?
Yeah, they're going to impeach Trump. And I wonder if the Republicans work with him. But I propose
so do they convict him and remove him? Do they convict him? Because just remind our audience who maybe aren't all policy walks, but a lot of people know how it works. You got to get impeached in the House, and you got to be convicted in the Senate. Bill Clinton was impeached, but he wasn't found guilty. Donald Trump has had the same thing. But this time, do they impeach him? Yes. Do they convict him in the Senate? Yes or no?
The establishment wants nothing more than to turn the corner on the MAGA movement. And so they would have an opportunity to do this, but I have no idea where the vote would be. And what the only evidence I have is that Trump very strongly wanted the nuclear option to be used to look out for the voters, to open the government. And they only had 9 votes in the Senate, according to the Washington Examiner. So I don't know. I really don't know. It depends on what the evidence is. But it's the Republicans have 356 days till the next election, and it looks like they're going to lose. And if they were going to fix it, we would need a Manhattan Project style, all hands on deck contract to America that they actually delivered on some of it, and then promised what the rest of the Congress would look like. And I just literally don't think they want to.
So, Mark, these young men
fix it. Yeah.
These young men that are so frustrated, they can't get jobs, they got debt, they play by the rules, they didn't get into trouble. They're having a hard time finding a wife that has the morals they want. Of course, that's a two-way street, boys. Isn't it funny how you want to play around and horse around and sleep around, but then you want to marry a pure lady? You know, sorry, rules don't work like that, boys. Those girls aren't sleeping by themselves, right? So now they're suffering the consequences. They want to play around and sleep with girls, but then when it comes time to get married, they want a girl that hasn't slept around. Good luck with that. So they can't find the women they want. Yeah. They can't get the job they want. They, are being called the source of all suffering and oppression is white men, right? They get passed over jobs because they are men, because we got to hire a quota of so many women. And then we got to hire illegals, minorities. And if you can find a minority woman, now you've really rung the bell. So they're getting passed over, and now they're ticked. And the guy they thought was going to save them, Donald Trump, and they were more excited about Trump with Doge and Elon. And then when Doge went away, and now we see this, they're done, they're out, they're likely to never vote again. But here's the question. Will they, some of them vote, and will some of them say, if you can't beat them, join them? I'm ready for socialism, because if you can't get it with the free market, then I want my universal basic income. I want everything else. I'm going to join them. How many of them actually convert because they're so bitter and ticked off at this point?
Well, again, of the people that voted for Trump under 40, like 3/4 of them want major industries nationalized. So this idea that they're like red-blooded conservatives who strongly believe in free market capitalism is completely false.
Okay.
And there are so many polls that like reinforce that these people, in my opinion, want a strong man. Like, I'll give you one example. Trump's approval under 40 was like 60% back when he was ripping apart Doge. Literally, the peak Doge week was the week that he peaked at 60%. And that's so unbelievably unprecedented because those people went to Hillary Clinton by over 20 points in our polling. So just like a massive, massive, massive shift. Now he's lost all of them because he got rid of Doge. He's down to 35% among voters under 30. But these people are the ones watching the Arctic frost investigation most closely, 80% of them. And they're also the people who are most likely to want people arrested for things like the AutoPen investigation and Arctic frost.
And so Arctic frost, for those who need to remember, Arctic frost is where the government was spying on members of the Senate and tapping their phone calls.
Yep. So the sentiment, and again, you can look at these DMs I'm getting and say they're anecdotes, but it's also kind of like a focus group. It's a focus group of MAGA people. None of these people are really core Republicans. They're people that have been on the Trump train. And
so that's a key point. They weren't Republicans, but they were MAGA. So you've used the term strong men several times. So what does a strong man look like that appeals to people on the right and this now disenfranchised MAGA coalition that aren't really conservatives? What does a strong man look like?
They want order.
Is there a strong man that they both
impeached?
Is there a strong man they can both embrace? The left and the right?
Well, right now, Mamdani's got a 62% favorable rating. Is it all the same people that gave Trump a 60% favorable rating? No, but he's doing well right now.
Are you saying that some of these disenfranchised MAGA young men who really aren't conservatives at their core, but will really give him a try, that some of them could actually go and vote for Mamdani if he ran for president?
I don't know what the crossover is. I'd assume that a bunch of them are just going to check out politically and not vote for anybody, and certainly not get behind him in any meaningful way. But what I'm assuming is that anybody, and again, I think Trump can recapture a lot of this if he changes course. If Trump continues to fail, the Democrats take over. It was very clear that Trump became an oligarch and didn't do what he needed to do. I think you're going to see younger conservative-leaning men who want action do more of this edgelord behavior and be more demanding and hold the Republican Party hot. Like essentially what Israel's doing. They're going to compete with Israel and other interests, the pro-NATO interests, on the internet to ensure that the Republican Party puts their interests first. And what I'm telling you, the writing on the wall is that eventually what the millennials and Zoomers and some of Gen X wants will win. Eventually that will win. And it's a question of, does it take 20 years of the Republicans being in the wilderness while Democrat socialists loot the treasury? I don't know. I think probably there will be flashpoints before then. And quite frankly, there's a big incentive because I think they're going to go after Trump criminally. They're going to investigate him for sure, starting in a year, right? Starting in 2027. There's a big incentive for Trump to take drastic action between now and then to do things. And again, like looking at these judges, the under 40s are the ones that most likely are most likely to want them impeached. And they say no. They say they don't want him to do it, but it was close. They don't want Trump to ignore judges. But if he had done it in March, I think he would have gotten away with it, because the Democrats piss on the Constitution all the time. And quite frankly, a lot of these young people are mad that the Republicans don't do it back.
And now Carville is warning, as we get ready to wrap here, that the Democrats are going to win, and then they're going to set up a blue ribbon commission, and then they're going to stack the Supreme Court.
Yep. I mean, sure. Yeah. What are Republicans going to do about it? They're just going to sit there and do nothing. I guess they'll do another reconciliation law. I don't even think those are the right things to do. Like there's no public opinion wins there. But they're certainly not talking about a plan. They're not going to do, there's no controversy. It's like they've completely abdicated. It's like Republicans abdicated the second the one big beautiful bill got passed, almost as if that's the only thing they wanted.
So do you think that we're headed for a civil war more now than ever? You've said you think we are. Is this say, yes, we are? Or do you have an idea who the strong man might be they would accept? And is that strong man someone like Mamdani?
I don't know. Maybe there's room on the right, and I don't know how this plays out politically. But what I can tell you is that I heard from more than one person, and again, it's just anecdotes, but it's also a focus group, that I thought Trump was going to be that strong man, and I guess we just have to wait for our own Franco, is how it was specifically put to me, the Spanish guy. And so there we are. Like, I don't know how these things play out. I'm not a historian, but I think what happens is that the pot of water increasingly gets hotter, and then something symbolic snaps and people take action. And I don't know what that is. When Trump's in office, it's probably more likely that you have Democrat states try to resist Trump and do some things to goad him into action. And he's been goaded a lot and really hasn't taken enough action as far as the influencers and Gen Z that I watch. They want this guy brutally crushed, the riots, you know what I mean? And now that Trump seems to be losing political capital, maybe the left feels like it doesn't need to agitate as much, or maybe it goes in for the kill. I really don't know. But then when Trump's out of power, the left is probably going to brutally crack down on the right and censor things again. And so we'll see what the right does with it this time. But the right is afraid to protest after January 6th. Weren't we supposed to get a January 6th commission, Brandon? Like everything was a lie. Like we're just going to let that one slide? Like all the feds are probably still employed. You know what I mean? We can't even get one pipe bomber out there. And it's like, I'm just so tired. I'm tired, boss. Like, what are we even doing here? This was supposed to be a golden age of America. And everybody's like, why did the wheels fall off? Let's just acknowledge something, Brandon, though, is that like, I haven't heard a lot about Christians recently. You know what I mean? Like, they just haven't been in the news. You might not know this, but do you know who the number one believer in the death penalty is in America?
No, who?
Evangelical Christians.
Well, yeah, I would guess that. I thought you were going to shock me like these young white guys.
A lot of people would be shocked. You know what I mean? Like, that's not biblical. You got to have mercy. And you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, it's like, no, mercy and equity means looking out for the victims too.
Well, isn't it interesting that Israel's now fighting and trying to get a legislation to bring capital punishment back so they can kill, or I don't know if bring it back, but to have capital punishment so they can kill these terrorists so they don't have to worry about trading them anymore. And they should.
So people want strong accountability. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like the death penalty is increasingly more popular. I haven't polled on the Civil War recently. Maybe we should do that again. Last time it was 43% thought that a civil war or revolution was going to happen in the next couple of years. Maybe it's higher. Maybe it's not. Maybe we'll have a let them eat cake moment and there will be a Bastille. And I don't know what the American Bastille would be. Somebody says it's probably going to be that Memphis Bass Pro Shop. And I was like, oh, that's funny. They're going to come and like eat the ducks or something. Like, I just don't know. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know what it's going to be.
Did you go to the Memphis Bass Pro while you were here?
No, I didn't. Yeah. I didn't see any.
And the Memphis Ducks are at the Peabody down the road, right by it. So
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, nobody better be messing with my Peabody ducks that come off the elevator on the red carpet and jump in the fountain. You know, they come off the elevator.
Yeah, I heard.
Walk a red carpet.
My mom told me all about it.
Jump in the fountain. Your mom seen it?
Yeah. She went down there.
Yeah.
100%. She's doing her boomer thing, going on her cruises, enjoying her Medicare. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, it's like the youth are about ready to take over that Bass Pro Shop.
Yeah.
Just steal all the guns or something
like
that.
Oh, my. Wow. Well, wow, that's too close to home for me. That's just right over there.
Sorry.
Wow. All right, let's show his website. No, it is what it is. Here we go. At Honest Pollster. Mark Mitchell at Honest Pollster. Bad day today for Donald Trump. And if he doesn't correct course, it's only going to get worse. And it'll end up in being bad for all of us because they're going to take the House. They're going to impeach him. I don't know if they'll remove him in the Senate with a conviction, but it's bad. And then they win 2028. And we're next time, like you said, you think the dictator they get will make Biden look soft.
Yeah, I mean, it's reasonable to assume. And again, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like, I measure this stuff, and it's just like we're at an inflection point where literally anything can happen. So I'm going to scream about the bad things that I think are going to happen. So hopefully some people will like have a gut check here.
Yep.
And it's like they're probably going to go scorched earth after everybody in Donald Trump's administration is all I can assume. But yeah.
All right. You've been good with your time tonight. Thank you. Check it out. Honest Pollster at Honest Pollster. Also RasmussenReports.com. Mark Mitchell checking in. Great interview, guys. Well done. Thank you, Mark. All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. I do hope you will, again, consider joining our vault at worldviewtube.com/vault. Let me show it to you again. My Revelation book, it's been a year and a half on this, and it's coming out sometime in early December, late November, early December, and it will be in the vault automatically. It's about 250 pages. I haven't seen the final page count. The print, to be honest with you, was so small that I'm like, that is so small. I'm 56, and with my reading glasses on, I can still barely read that. So I said, make it like 14 point. I want it to be 14 point. I don't want to struggle to read it. And put some space between each line, will you? So Jill was so good about doing that. Thank you, Jill. And so, I don't know, it's probably going to come in at about 250 pages. I haven't seen the last count, but that'll be out very soon, automatically, if you are a member of the Vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. Of course, my new book out on Hamas that I did an 11-hour study on 2019. That's all there. That book is there for you for free right now as a Vault member. So, and then Siege and Sabotage. The Siege book should be out before the week's over, and it'll automatically be in the Vault for you. worldviewtube.com/vault. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. And don't forget, my friends, don't forget that we're brought to you by you, worldviewfoundation.com. I had to reach for these. I was told we have to order more of these. I was told we have to order more of these because they're out. We're out. I mean, we're obviously not out. I'm holding some, but I think this is all we have. So a lot of you are ordering the free pack of business cards to pass out to tell people about the network. So thank you for doing that. Worldviewstore.com. Worldviewstore.com. May God save America. Take care.